Williams would go on trial at the start of 1982. Testimony would last almost 2 months. It would be a trial like no other before. A case built on fibers. No fingerprints, no murder weapon, no apparent motive. Now remember, you're one of the jurors. 3 choices: guilty, innocent, or simply not proven. This time, the verdict's yours. Mary Welcome was Wayne Williams' defense attorney.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
This was her first murder trial. What was he like when you met him?
A most unlikely killer.
Yeah, why?
Because he just didn't appear to be the kind of person that could strangle anyone or have the strength to.
To her, Wayne Williams seemed gentle, childlike.
One day I left him in jail. I said, Wayne, is there anything I can bring? Would you like anything? He said, would you bring me some bubble gum?
Williams was charged with and tried for only 2 murders: Nathaniel Cater and Jimmy Payne, both adults found in the same area of the Chattahoochee River. Cater's body was nude, but his hair was caked with mud.
Digging through that silt, I was able to recover dog hair and fibers that were close to his scalp.
The dog hair was consistent with Sheba, the Wayne Williams family dog. In Cater's hair was one of those unusual green carpet fibers. Under a microscope, Peterson could see the boomerang shape, just like those in the Williams family carpet. This is an actual piece of that carpet, which the FBI's Harold Dedman said was quite rare.
It's got an unusual carpet fiber. It was manufactured for a limited amount of time. It was a 10-year-old carpet.
On Jimmy Payne, the other victim, Dedman found yellow rayon fibers stuck to his cotton shorts, fibers consistent with the blanket under Wayne's bed.
I personally took the cutting from the yellow blanket that was under the bed.
This evidence slide contains the yellow blanket fibers that Dedman clipped that night, magnified by our own video camera. But when Larry Peterson had returned that June for a second search a couple weeks later,
There was no yellow blanket to be found that I could find.
there are a lot of things in your case that disappeared. You had a lot of disappearances. Yellow blanket
Yes.
disappeared.
In the first place, there was never a yellow blanket.
There were fibers of a yellow blanket.
There were fibers alleged to have come from a yellow blanket. Nobody's been able to produce a yellow blanket because, quite simply, and I'm just being very blunt with you, there was no yellow blanket.
Or maybe you got rid of it in between the first time they searched and when they come back.
It seems like to me, if I were a police officer, I would have confiscated the blanket too. It doesn't make sense.
The prosecution was allowed to bring in 10 other deaths. Among them, Patrick Baltazar, Eric Middlebrooks, JoJo Bell, to try to show a pattern.
This is a chart showing fibers that were recovered from the body of Patrick Baltazar.
Fibers consistent with that blanket, with Wayne Williams' bedspread, the green carpet, hair from Wayne's dog, plus a leather jacket.
The jacket was, as I recall, was hanging in his closet.
And, Dedman told the jury, 2 human hairs were found inside Patrick Baltazar's shirt.
These 2 hairs were consistent with originating from Williams.
Then there was Eric Middlebrooks, and the fibers stuck to his tennis shoe. This is a blow-up of those red fibers. The same kind were in a car Williams was driving that year.
This puts Middlebrooks both in the interior and of the 79 Ford and the trunk of the 79 Ford.
Did you ever meet any of the young men who were victims?
No, I did not.
Never met them once?
No.
Not once?
No.
It's incalculable, the odds that that they were not in contact with him in his environment.
The fiber evidence is your biggest obstacle.
That fiber evidence may well have been manipulated in this case. Point blank and simple. Simply because they had a suspect, it was Wayne, and that manipulation no doubt has continued even after my trial and up until this point.
There were just too many fibers placed on too many bodies.
Mike Derham, in blue, seen here the night of the verdict, was one of the jurors.
What would the chances be of finding the same, all of these fibers? The chances would be just astronomical.
This witness, Robert Henry, did place Williams with the very last victim, Nathaniel Cater. Henry worked with Cater. He said he saw him leaving this theater with Wayne Williams on the night of the bridge incident. Henry has no doubt, even today, about what he saw.
We were holding hands, you know, like male and female. Well, if you were holding hands with one of my co-workers and both of you are males, what am I supposed to do? Turn my head? What's up, people? The next time I saw him, he was in the courtroom.
When Wayne Williams took the stand, he swore he never met Nathaniel Cater. On the evening Henry said he saw them, Wayne testified he was home, sick and asleep in bed. His mother and father, now deceased, backed him up. Homer Williams said he had the white station wagon until almost midnight. Under cross-examination, in his third day on the stand, Wayne Williams blew up at prosecutor Jack Mallard.
That morning, he was a complete different person. Immediately, he started attacking. He came out of the chute like a bull. When he said, you want the real Wayne Williams, you've got him, I think all of us, the jury, understood that, yeah.
I was probably my own worst enemy. I was an arrogant, bus-headed idiot at the time, and I played right into these people's hands. I could see almost the shock in the jurors' faces if they said, my God, is this the same Wayne that was up here yesterday? I could see that.
Patrick Baltazar's stepmother was watching in court that day.
I'm like, this man gotta be crazy. This man, I mean, it's like he's saying, you know, yeah, I killed him, but you better prove it. You know, can you prove it? He was doing everything he can to outsmart everybody. And it was like, I did it, but can you prove I did it?
Camille Bell, Yusef's mother, believed Wayne to be innocent. She feels that last day on the witness stand convicted him.
And then when he flared off, then they were ready to say, well, okay, so he does have fire.
When you got angry with the prosecutor, you said, you're a drop shot.
I called him a drop shot.
What's a drop shot? What's that mean?
Quite simply, in our vernacular, a drop shot is a guy who's not worth much of anything. You know, just drop him and shoot him and get him out of the way. In other words, you're useless.
We reminded Wayne that he also called poor black children on the streets the same thing, drop shots.
That does not make me a murderer simply because I said somebody is a drop shot or because I called him a drop shot. That does not make Wayne Williams a murderer because I say somebody is a street urchin. You know, come on, we're talking about murder. The fact is, I didn't kill anybody.
The jury didn't come back until late the second evening. The verdict, guilty, on both counts of murdering the two adults, Cater and Payne. Wayne Williams was sentenced to serve 2 life terms.
People only wanted to look at the negative side because they wanted in their heart for this case to be over and for Wayne to be the Atlanta monster. They wanted closure at any cost.
Leaving court, Homer Williams walked by the prosecutor's table.
He looked at us and called us sons of bitches.
Still to come, no verdict in the deaths of any of the children.
Even if it takes 30 trials, I don't care. You know, prove it.
Defense attorney Mary Welcome did not expect the guilty verdict.
I was crestfallen.
So why do you think the jury convicted him?
Because he might have been guilty. Because he might have been.
During the trial, medical examiner Robert Stivers told the jury there had been very few strangulations of black males in the years before these murders began, and none at all with bodies left in rivers or by the roadside since that night Wayne Williams was stopped leaving this bridge.
They were convinced that the crimes had stopped because Wayne had been arrested.
And I think what happened is people stopped looking and stopped counting.
Murders have continued in Atlanta. Shootings of black men, stabbings of black women, but not strangulations like before. Not black youths dumped far from where they were killed. Detective Welcome Harris would stay on the police force another 25 years. We asked him how many more children were killed the way they were in the 80s.
None that I can recall. None that I can recall.
Wayne Williams' appeals would drag on for years. He almost won the first one. Georgia Supreme Court Justice George Smith helped a colleague write a ruling that would have reversed the verdict.
He would have found that the evidence didn't support a conviction. That's what he did find originally.
But the 5 other justices resisted.
When we met, they pitched a royal fit. They were not going to overturn the conviction. The 5 of them would.
In the end, all the justices, except Smith, agreed to uphold the conviction. Wayne Williams said the court was bullied into making its U-turn.
I think the pressure came from as high as the White House, and we'll leave it at that.
Not so, said George Smith, now retired from the court, but still practicing law in his 90s.
I can't imagine that had happened in a case like this. I can't imagine it happened in any case, but certainly this case, it didn't reach to the White House.
Smith did write a dissenting opinion. He said the fiber evidence fell short of scientific certainty, and the prosecution should not have been allowed to use the so-called pattern evidence on 10 other murders.
I said the only similarity in the crimes in this case is the fact that all of them were dead.
Smith was denounced on the floor of the Georgia legislature.
I was an N lover. You know what the N stands for.
Mary Welcome agreed when Justice Smith wrote the defense attorneys were ineffective.
We were rendered ineffective. We were rendered incompetent because of the lack of funds, lack of time, and the lack of resources. Absolutely.
Things did go wrong in the trial that should not have. An ambulance driver suggested an explosive motive for Wayne Williams. This from CNN's report at the time.
Bobby Tolan said Williams asked him once, had he ever considered how many blacks could be eliminated by killing one nigger child?
But unknown to either side, Tolan was not his real name. In fact, he had a criminal record.
He testified under a false name, had an extensive arrest record under his real name.
I'm not sure that we knew all of that at the time, or it was disclosed to us.
Rogers' home is but 8 blocks away from where he was found today.
Then there was the murder of Larry Rogers, a retarded youth. This witness testified she saw Rogers slumped over in a station wagon as Wayne Williams drove away. But another person also saw Rogers in that station wagon at that same intersection that day. He helped a police artist draw this sketch. It does not look like Wayne Williams. However, the defense never called the other witness to ask about the sketch.
No, I don't even remember seeing that.
Supporters of Wayne Williams say there was one murder which shows the fiber evidence could be faulty. The death of 12-year-old Clifford Jones, left by a dumpster in an alley on a summer night in 1980. Some of those unusual green carpet fibers were on his body. Yet another boy said he saw a coin laundry operator kill Clifford Jones. Detective Welcome Harris said the boy was not believable.
He exaggerated stuff. In other words, he was open to suggestions. And if you said that Mickey Mouse was up there, and if he sensed that you wanted him to say that, he said, yeah.
Wayne's supporters point out the laundry manager failed 2 police lie detector tests, but few are aware of a third test given by the FBI examiner, Richard Ratcliffe. The result?
In layman's terms, they passed. He wasn't involved in killing Jones.
Only days after Wayne Williams was convicted of killing 2 adults, Atlanta's police commissioner closed the books on 21 other murder victims, declaring they, too, were killed by Williams. Most were children, among them Clifford Jones and Yusef Bell. But without trials, the mothers were left without a verdict, one way or the other, in the deaths of all of the children. Camille Bell.
Even if it takes 30 trials, I don't care. You know, prove it.
The prosecutor's answer, it would serve no purpose.
You can only serve 1 life sentence.
Just ahead, a new alibi that backfires.
He was out that night, no question in my mind. He was not at home. He was out and about.
And after all these years, new DNA evidence.
Then it probably would exclude 98% or so of the people in the world.
After the trial, Robert Henry would change his story about seeing the last victim, Nathaniel Cater, holding hands with Wayne Williams. In this affidavit, Henry wrote, "If my life depended on it, I could not say the man I saw with Cater was Wayne Williams." Our producer confronted Henry with that affidavit. His signature is at the bottom.
Yes, that's my handwriting.
Whose words are those?
They're not mine.
Whose words are they?
I'd rather not say.
In the summer of 1986, Henry was in prison here when, he said, an associate of Wayne Williams came to see him and told him what to write.
When you said, "I could not ID the face of Wayne Williams as the man I saw with Nathaniel Cater," are those your words?
Those are words I was told to say.
By?
I'd rather not say. It might cause a problem.
Could you ID the face of Wayne Williams?
The person I saw holding Nathaniel Cater's hand was Wayne Williams, the man that was convicted of it.
In fact, Henry had passed a lie detector test before he took the witness stand. When his visitor came to see him, Henry was serving 5 years for sex crimes. His false affidavit was used in court appeals. Wayne Williams lost each time anyway.
To this day, is there any question in the mind whom you saw with Cater?
No, it's not.
It was?
Wayne Williams.
Robert Henry is not the only one whose story has changed back and forth over the years. So has Wayne Williams. At trial, Williams testified he was home all evening, sick in bed, when Henry said he saw him holding hands with Cater. Now, Williams says he has a different alibi for that evening.
I was at a place called Hotlanta Records in College Park.
Williams says he drove to that office near the Atlanta airport. He had taken photos for this poster the night before and went there to turn in this invoice to get paid.
We delivered a bill and statement of services, and we were cut a check for it, and it was probably about 9 or 9:30 when I left that location.
We reached Hotlanta's owner, Melvin Ware, now living in Los Angeles.
He called in advance, and when he came, I went back and wrote the check behind the desk. That's where our checkbook was.
But he said Williams didn't stay that long, not as late as 9.
It wasn't like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. We always spent maybe a half hour or something like that.
How did Wayne get to the office?
He drove. I think he had his dad's car, if I'm not mistaken.
Wayne's father, Homer Williams, testified he had the station wagon until almost midnight that night. But Chet Detlinger, an investigator for the defense, said Wayne told him long ago this was a lie.
All he told me was he had the car, his dad didn't have the car. Wayne said, but I had the vehicle, and I didn't want to corrupt my dad's testimony in the eyes of the jury, so I lied about it and said I didn't have it on the stand.
What makes this important is what time Robert Henry says he saw Wayne and Nathaniel Cater together.
It was about 9:15 and 9:30. It was on Lucky and Forsyth Street, downtown Atlanta.
So at the trial, you said that you were in bed till 10 p.m.
All right.
You were so sick, your mother said that she had to help lie your body out on the bed. You were so sick.
This is where the confusion with all of us came in. I got back from Hotlanta Records, probably about 9:30.
But there's no one to corroborate that, even if his mother were still alive. Wayne said she probably didn't see him come in. Prosecutor Jack Mallard.
He was out that night, no question in my mind. He was not at home. He was out and about.
Less than 6 hours after Henry said he saw Williams and Cater here, police heard a splash under this bridge. Cater's body washed up downstream 2 days later. 30 years ago, there was no DNA testing. Now there is, and so new evidence. Remember those 2 human hairs found inside 11-year-old Patrick Baltazar's shirt? In 2007, the hair fragments were sent to the FBI's DNA laboratory in Quantico, Virginia. The result? The lab said it found this DNA sequence in only 29 out of more than 1,100 samples of African-American hairs in its database, less than 3%. Most important, Wayne Williams' DNA had the same sequence.
I don't think they said it was a match. I think they said they could not rule out whomever the hairs were from as being the possible donor.
The FBI's Hal Dedman, a DNA expert, said this finding is as strong as it can get with this particular type of testing.
Then it probably would exclude 98% or so of the people in the world.
Did you kill 11-year-old Patrick Baltazar?
I did not kill Patrick Baltazar or anybody else.
Did you ever meet Patrick Baltazar?
No, I did not.
Never been in contact with that kid?
I don't even know a Patrick Baltazar.
We offered to show the DNA findings to the stepmother, Sheila Baltazar.
I can't read it. Please don't make me read it.
Oh my God. So we told her what the FBI report said. Wayne Williams cannot be excluded as the source of those 2 hairs. She listened. Then this.
Without a shadow of a doubt, I really in my heart believe that Wayne Williams killed Patrick Baltazar.
Next, Trained to Kill.
Were you trained in unarmed combat techniques? Could you grab somebody bigger than yourself, put them in a chokehold?
I'm sure there are other things in unarmed combat besides putting somebody in a chokehold.
When we returned to prison for our final interview with Wayne Williams, we had one question he was not expecting. What Wayne had written about being recruited for espionage training as a teenager. At a secret government camp hidden in the woods near this North Georgia lake, where he was given what could amount to a license to kill.
It's called Finding Myself. What's Finding Myself? It reads like an autobiography.
Go ahead, I'm still trying to see.
It's a account of your CIA training.
We're not going to get into that.
Why not?
We're not going to get into that.
I got a copy of it.
Yeah, but we're not going to get into that.
Why not?
We're just simply not going to get into that.
By his account, Wayne was fresh out of high school. just 18 years old, when he was approached by an associate of an old World War II spy living in the Atlanta area and was initiated into a secret world.
You're not going to answer a single question on this?
No, ma'am.
Is it fake?
No.
Is it fictional writing?
No.
Did you work for the CIA?
We're not going to get into that.
In these pages, he said he spent his summer weekends in those woods, learning how to handle plastic explosives, hand grenades, and something even more chilling.
So, I'll do the talking part, and you can answer what part of it you want. You write how you fired rifles, submachine guns, handled assault weapons, grenade launchers, C4, learned unarmed combat techniques through this training group over weekends. Is it true or is it false?
We're not going to comment on that.
When you're 19 years old, you're saying you work for the CIA. You've been recruited.
I'll let the document speak for itself. We're not going to comment on that.
Did you work for the CIA?
I cannot comment on that.
Copyright 1992 by Wayne Williams. Is this an autobiography?
I cannot comment on that.
In his own words, Wayne Williams said this was part of a secret plan to send young black agents into the worst trouble spots in Africa in the late 1970s. He wrote that he finished training, then withdrew from the program.
Either this is a true story and you have been trained in evasive tactics, exfiltration techniques, weapons use, unarmed combat techniques, which would include a deadly chokehold, or it's made up.
Let me ask one question. Where did you obtain that?
I can't tell you that.
There we talking.
You're a newsman. You know the answer to that question before you asked it.
Okay. All right. I will say
Is it true? I mean, it's got your name on it.
I will say this.
Were you trained in unarmed combat techniques? Could you grab somebody bigger than yourself, put them in a chokehold? Because that's what that is.
I'm sure there are other things in unarmed combat besides putting somebody in a chokehold.
Well, when I talk to the military experts and I say to them, what exactly does that mean? That's one of the things on their list. Top 2 things, by the way.
I wouldn't doubt that.
So, are you trained in that or not?
Let me say this.
I'm asking such straightforward questions.
I understand that. But again, I ask you to understand my position on this. Let's say that were true, that were the case, or let's just say that I had some experiences that I do not want to comment on today for reasons that the document says, okay? The fact is, what does that have to do with the situation today?
Everything.
You tell me.
It has everything to do with it.
Listen.
A big part of the conversation when I talked to your lawyers was, could Wayne Williams grab somebody? Did he have the strength? Look how, he's not a big guy. Could he grab someone in a unarmed combat technique and kill them? And your attorneys would say to me, you met him, he's not a big guy. So if you're telling me that, yes, in fact, I was trained by the CIA, which is basically what this document says in a nutshell, on the weekends when I was a teenager, and I am trained in the chokehold technique. That's one thing. If you're telling me that, no, that never happened, but you're writing a long fantasy about being trained for the CIA in weaponry and the chokehold technique, that takes it a whole other direction.
Remember, doctors said at least 2 of the victims, and perhaps more, were probably killed by chokeholds.
Do you know how to kill someone with a chokehold? That's a straightforward question, isn't it? Because I can answer that. My answer would be no, sir, I do not know. Do you know how to answer? What's your answer to that?
Let me say something about that.
That's a yes or no answer.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is, actually.
No, it's not.
Not until the very end of our prison interview did we come close to a real answer.
It's actually a very simple question. Can you kill someone with a chokehold? And when you were 19 years old...
You probably could under the right circumstances.
I know for a fact I could not. I know you're being facetious, but I know for a fact I could not.
You don't know.
But were you trained as a teenager to do that? Because that's what you're writing in this. And I get CIA, you don't want to talk about it. It's all off the record.
Let me state this for the record. Okay. I think in the paper that you have, and I will say this, that it says that there was contact with a certain program, and I will say it was the Junior Officer Training Program, which was run by a certain agency, and you're correct, CIA. But I never said that I worked for them. I simply said
now who's splitting hairs?
That I had some contact with some person, and that's all I'm going to say.
Were you trained
that's all I'm
in
gonna
these
say.
techniques?
That's all I'm going to say.
He did acknowledge it was CIA training, but said no more. So is this true, or only a fantasy in his mind? The mind of a man the courts have found to be a killer. We'll leave that question with you. The verdict is now yours to decide in your own mind. Again, the choices: guilty, innocent, or a third choice not proven either way. In a few moments, we'll show you the verdict that our audiences reached when this documentary was first broadcast. But before then, a look at some of the answers from those who lived through the terror 30 years ago. The prosecutor.
Obviously guilty.
The defense attorney.
Not proven. One way or the other.
The FBI agent in charge.
Guilty of 2 double homicide.
Sheila Baltazar.
He could have killed all of them.
The Supreme Court Justice.
Not proven.
The witness.
Guilty.
Camille Bell.
Innocent but stupid.
That first task force detective.
No maybes, ifs, guilty. The right man for those homicides is in jail.